This podcast is brought to you by Infinite Resources, a local staffing agency connecting diverse job candidates in central Iowa companies.
Amplified.
Hey everyone, my name is Eddie Diaz. Thank you for joining me on my first ever podcast episode named The Roads Taken. Purpose of this episode is to meet some cool people, get to know about their lives, and hopefully some lessons learned so we can help other people learn from those lessons and get to meet some cool people along the way. So today's episode is my very first one, and I wanted to make it special. So I ended up inviting Ruby Herrera. Ruby, thank you for joining me today. How are you?
It's delightful. I mean, come on, to end my Friday this way, qué mejor que esta compañía aquí with your first podcast. Me siento, so honored, talk about, privilege. Wow. Gracias.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm excited we got it to work. So I'll give a little background on Ruby, and then we'll dig into kind of your childhood, get into some other stuff along the ways, and hopefully find some lessons learned and mistakes and highlights and lowlights and all that good stuff. So a few things that you should know about Ruby. Ruby is a mother of a senior in high school. She's a graduate of Perry High School, Central College, Drake University. Am I missing any of the places you've graduated from?
Did you mention DMAC?
DMAC? Oh, yes. I forgot.
Yeah, so foundation, my DMAC. I have to give it up for DMAC. And then they gave me the little motivation and push that I needed to move on to Central College.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oof, can't believe I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I did know that. I'm sorry. So, yeah, DMAC, first generation college student, a proud Chicana, a world traveler, and my cousin. Out of those, which ones are you the most proud of?
Oh, my God. You know what? The ones that brings me the most joy because we go back in history, ser tu prima.
Right.
Okay,
Good answer.
For the audience out there, we have a little palomas, so we're going to toast to that.
Yes.
Salud for Friday and being familia. So I really like that. Thank you. You know me.
Yes, I do. Anything I missed that was people should know about you? I know there's a lot.
There's a lot, but yeah, those are one of the key roles in my life so far. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's get into a little bit about your background that I didn't touch on. So first part is we're going to look into your childhood, where you come from, some of the things that you've learned along the way. So tell our friends, where did you grow up, and what are some of your favorite childhood memories?
I feel like this is going to be the best therapy session ever.
Hey, wait, hold on. Before you get any further, look what I brought for you.
Oh, God. Okay. Ready. This is the beauty about being in familia. They bring you stuff. Oh my gosh. Okay, for the audience out there, he brought me fresas, strawberries. Okay, this seriously takes me back to my childhood. There are two smells, and this is the thing you can't transmit through a podcast or through TV or anything like that or TikToks. The smell, the scent that just triggers your mind to go back to a place in time. So strawberries. I mean, seriously. Even if I never ate them, I have strawberries, and I have strawberries that remind me of growing up in the strawberry fields. We had a little trailita, and then the other scent for me would be guayabas, which reminds me of my childhood in Huaco, Michoacan. So this is special. This is so special. I don't know. I want to get teary-eyed.
They're so special. I already started eating them on the way here. So
I'm going to dip them in my paloma over here. Yeah. No, this is sweet. Are they sweet, though?
Oh, yeah, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Pero no le llegan, not the same as fresh picked, strawberry fields of California,
yes.
Specifically Watsonville.
Yes. And
for all of you, if you ever go shopping from now on, look at the box. It will say Watsonville, California. If it doesn't, don't even buy it. Yeah. So
that's a good intro. Yeah. Where did you grow up, and what are some of your favorite childhood memories?
As I was thinking about that question, one of the first memories was, not that I remember, but again, through storytelling in our familias is big. That's how we keep the memory alive. And then saying how they lived in a little trailita, a little trailer. And just to pause a little bit for the audience out there, this is me. This is me being very much authentic, being out there, and Spanglish. So if you're listening to me, Spanglish is my comfort zone. So I'll go in and out of English and Spanish. But yes, so La Trailita, the little trailer where we grew up. We were neighbors, and our parents. And that's why, again, I get triggered by the smell of strawberries, because I remember my parents, even then when we moved out of the trailer in the strawberry fields, we lived in one of the garages, and in there I remember the image of my parents coming home with los pantalones, todos enlodados, but still their scent was of strawberries. And that was sweet. And I remember growing up a happy child. I don't believe they gave us quantity, but they gave us quality time. And that was unique. I know they didn't do, in this phase of my life, being a parent myself now, a single mother, I realized that they did what they could with what they had. And I've never grew up with regrets or resentments or porque yo, porque la circunstancia. It was what it was. And I grew up with other Chicanos, Mexican Americans, growing up in high school or, throughout middle school and so forth, that were in the same situation. Parents making it. And the struggle was real, but so was the love and the unity in la familia. So that always made us persevere, the idea of that, end of the day, we're going to be there for each other. So, yeah.
Following up on that, you said you don't have any regrets of how you grew up. I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I was a little bit of a whiner. I'm like, oh, why don't I have that? Or my friends can do this, my friends can do that. It took me a long time to realize how lucky I was having the family that I have. Have you always recognized how lucky you were, or did you eventually when you got older look back, I'm like, oh, man, I did have it pretty good?
Como nunca faltó el amor, I think I didn't focus on the big stuff. Not that I can recall. I do feel that there was a moment where I started and it wasn't a perfect childhood for any means. I do remember going a little deeper. I was 5 years old, and we went back to Michoacan. And then one day, after, probably a couple of weeks of being there, I remember waking up and my parents were gone. And I think that Paloma started to kick in. But I do remember feeling this sense of abandono, sense of abandonment, questioning myself, what's wrong with me? Why did they leave me behind? And it was a couple years, or what felt forever, because we didn't have any communication. There was one phone for the entire, town of Huacao, and you didn't call unless it was an emergency. So I didn't really know, I didn't hear them. No hablaba con ellos, no los escuchaba. And so I was raised during that time with my grandparents.
Oh, wow.
And they took Tito, my younger brother, and I thought, but why him? What's wrong with me? And at a very early age, and I don't know if you got the same treatment, but when we go to Mexico, we're los gringos se lo pasan en los pochos, which I've bring honor to being a pocha now, right? But back then, it was like, ay, te crees más, una presumida, still you're in kindergarten, you're 5, but yeah, the sense of bullying. But yeah, so for me, it was like, hey, yeah, there must be something wrong with me because my parents left me here with my grandparents. And even then, a lot of things happened, and I learned very early on that nobody was going to come and rescue me. It was through some traumatic stuff that happened in living as a young girl in Huacao in Mexico. Things you can't erase, things that make you grow up a lot faster and remind you that, hey, you got God. I have faith. And that's the one thing I do remember. I have a beautiful, growing up, I do remember my mom putting, this, how would I say, la poca energía que tenía, putting it into us. Coming home, and my parents would divide up the task. He would, make dinner. She would wash the dishes or vice versa. And then she would, bathe us. And then always, as tired as she was, she would read to us. Read to us, and then cuentos from la infancia or cuentos from a book. Reading was always a part of, growing up. And to end the night, we would end with a prayer. And what are you thankful for? And so when I remember being left in Mexico, I remember my 5-year-old that I said, ¿Sabes qué, Diosito? I don't know what I did to be alone or be abandoned, but you got me. Like, tú me vas a cuidar. And mi ángel de la guarda, which they raised me to believe in, el ángel de la guarda, my guardian angel, I always felt that sense of faith kicking in. And it's survival. It's how do you make it? It isn't until like a couple years, I come back to the U.S., forgot all the English that I knew, and starting off in 2nd grade. And even then, I remember Tito, I was like, I'm going to hate him. I told him his story. I'm like, I'm going to hate this little Tito guy, because they took him and not me. And I guess that was a little resentimiento right there, because I remember them sending letters, and in one of the letters, they sent pictures with him playing in the front yard and with the water hose. Y yo, you're going to get your, te vas a ver cuando yo llegue.
And for those of you that don't know, Tito is her younger brother.
Yes, younger brother.
So that's pretty wild, because I'm sure I knew at some point this happened, but I didn't know that. I didn't. I mean, you're a little bit younger than me, but I don't remember that part of my life when you're not being around.
Pretty young, and the thing is, and then this goes out to parents. Don't assume. I think that's the biggest killer of a communication. They assume I was okay because they were back in the U.S. They were working. But I wasn't okay, because then they still worked long hours, which I understood. As well as your parents, they would leave the house at 4 or 5 in the morning and then come back hasta que se metía el sol a las 6 de la tarde or so. So I didn't see them much. But even then, when they, again, back to the quality time. But yeah, assuming that for many years that, está bien, like, ya no llora, no hace nada, está bien. And it wasn't until I was 21 or 20, almost turning 21, that we had that discussion. Me acuerdo que I was in the airport sitting down and waiting, and I was like, Dad, ¿por qué? Oye, pa, ¿por qué? Mi mamá no me habla. She's pretty quiet. Y dijo, it's hard for her. It's hard for her to see you take off, because this is always what we wanted for you to tener raíces, pero también tener alas para volar, fly far, do whatever you need. But if she feels like if she talks to you, then she's going to start crying y te va a convencer de quedarte. And I said, well, you know what? I'm a lot, I don't know, I'm mature. I don't know, mature at that age. But I said, I know my history a little more about being Chicana. I know where I stand. I'm going to go try and give Mexico another try. They didn't treat me quite as well the first time. This is me giving Mexico another opportunity, because now I know more about me and being Chicana and being, Mexican American and so forth. But he was like, a ver, like, what is this, giving Mexico another second chance? Like, well, it sucked when I was living as a kid over there. I even stopped going to school, because se robaban mi torta. Let's be real.
Yeah. No,
the foodie in me was like, you're not taking my little torta. But yeah, it was one of those things that I grew up with. And but communication, again, don't assume, and have those conversations. And and even now, even last year, I still dig into that past. Like, hey, I'm more brave, and I am not afraid to ask the hard questions, and a lot of has come out, especially after my mom's passing a year and a half ago, where it's like, estamos they're getting older, so this is the time to really ask the questions, going, no te quedarte con la duda, again, because I said maybe they assume, but I shouldn't. I need to break that and actually ask the questions y no quedarme con la duda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't live out there as long as you did, but I do remember getting jumped a couple times when I would go on visits and getting chased around. Like, and my Spanish wasn't great, so.
So you yell at them in English?
Yeah.
Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Exactly. So going back to your childhood, what, every family has like these little funny stories of growing up. Is there any story that your family shares about your childhood, like something crazy that happened, something funny that you remember? Maybe you don't remember specifically, but people, it goes through years and hey, remember when that happened? Or any funny stories from your childhood?
Uy, this going down memory lane. Okay, maybe there was one where it was very simple, but they kept bringing it up. So it's esta dramática, this drama queen over here. I was little, and I think it was my brother that hit me in my stomach, and me pegó en la panza. Like kids, we were always playing. But it was just like, ay, ma, pa, Tito me pegó en el mero corazón. And I was like, touching my stomach, but talking about my heart. Yeah. And they say, eres bien dramática. They didn't even hit you in your heart. But I had learned from novelas, I learned from soap operas that whenever the actresses would hold their heart, like, oh, me duele el corazón. Like, I got it. Like, that's the worst that people can do to you,
That's why my girls don't watch novelas. Only out. Yes, Marine Corps movies. So you touched upon maybe one of them, but is there any, and you also touched on lessons already. So just to kind of recap some of the lessons that I captured is quality time. Like I'm assuming that's something you value now with your daughter, and that hopefully people, especially young parents, realize that quality time's huge. That reading piece. I don't remember my parents reading to me, so I'm kind of envious that you got that. But I'm sure that stuck with you, and that probably helped. So moving on to other challenges, maybe later in your childhood, but do you remember any big challenges or failures in your childhood, if you want to call them that you had, and what did you learn from those experiences?
I love this word failure. I talked to my daughter about that. I said, love your failures. Here's the thing. And even my students, as a high school teacher and mother of a senior, I said, what do you wish for the new esta generación, these teenagers? I said, fail often and fail early. Because in those failures is donde vas a aprender. They're the biggest lessons. And here's the thing, whether you call it karma, whatever you want to call it in life, la misma pendejada is going to keep coming back and back hasta que aprendas. It's like life diciéndote, oye, pendeja, ¿aprendiste sí o no? You're like, I get it. And it's hard sometimes to get it the first time around. But this is the thing that makes us grow up. And but failures, todos los tenemos. And it wasn't until this probably now late 30s, now in my 40s, that I really embrace that, embrace what sucks, because that's where the biggest lessons are. Así que no tengo, remordimientos en ese sentido. Failures, I guess what society would call failures. I would say at the beginning, at high school, I was tempted to drop out. There was a few months that I casi no iba a las clases. And I wonder what it was. This is where I thought it was genius. I was a pretty good student back in Aptos High School in California. And I thought, okay, si me porto fuera de serie, out of my norm, y si I start skipping classes or no voy, and get bad grades, my parents are going to see whatever good student I was back in California, and they'll send me back to graduate with my class. Entonces ese era supuestamente mi plan, pero siempre me ganaba the good grade in me. But I think it was tempting, especialmente because, back then I didn't identify with anybody. And I remember que tú y yo nos decían, are you guys gang members?
I kind of was.
Y yo, él sí, pero yo no. Although, but you guys, here's the thing. This is a good lesson for teachers out there and students, I suppose, because I remember feeling that the more they said, even if it was jokingly, o sea, en broma, te lo empiezas a creer. Te lo empiezas a creer. And so then when I started thinking, I remember I taught middle school first. Y me acuerdo que I caught myself. Las chicas estaban mucho más grandes y we assume things. Again, the big mistake, to assume, se visten así, ya se ven altas, they look older for their age. Y dije, no, wait. That's one of the things that I hated people doing about me. And let me stop myself there. Porque no, sí se ven grandes, se ven mayores, pero su corazón y su experiencia es todavía de una niña at middle school de 12, 13 años. And they're out for, looking for love, somebody to value them y todo esto. Entonces, anyways, but back in high school, creo que me lo empecé a creer y dije, qué feo que, it's, again, words have power, words have power. Y entonces we have to be very careful on what words we choose and don't fall into those assumptions, ¿verdad? De que, again, now in reflection, digo, okay, pues pobrecitos, ¿no? Aquí éramos la primera tanda de Latinos y they didn't know any better. Hopefully now that's one of the 3 students is Latino in pre-high school, they would know that, hey, learn a little more, ¿verdad? No sé cómo la situación, pero me imagino que it's way different from being 10 or 15 of us in a whole high school. Entonces but again, it's how you reflect on it. I think that I did the most growing up and knowing about myself.
Yeah.
That's why I said when I went to study in Yucatan, by the time I was 20 or so, ya yo había pasado por ese crisis de identidad to really discover who I was. And it was because I was placed in the middle of, white America. Y dije, okay, pues things got real. Let's see how this goes. I need to see where I go and what I value and what being Chicana is all about. So, yeah. And
unfortunately, we're kind of lucky. We both kind of got stereotyped for a while, but we broke those stereotypes and we were able to move on and do some other stuff. But I know people that kind of got sucked into that lifestyle and weren't able to learn from those failures. So, all right, next question. What are some of the most influential people in your childhood? And I'll start off with somebody that I thought you would mention earlier from your childhood memories. Do you remember Aptos High School, your freshman year?
Yes, como la flor. You remember?
So this is my sophomore year. Her freshman year. This is a massive high school, probably like 1,500, 2,000 people in California. And all of a sudden at a lunch.
Oh my God, you remember that?
Oh my God.
It's coming back.
Yes. Like, Ruby's always been confident and has a strong presence. And to get out in front of thousands or maybe hundreds, I don't know. Tell us that story of let me guess. Selena's got to be one of the influential people in your childhood.
Hell yeah. Wow. Yes. And I will have to also say, tomar este momento to pause and say, I'm very appreciative of your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because she got my mom to go and see me.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mom was like, ¿qué vas a hacer allá? Again, my mom being very conservative and didn't want to go see this talent show. I remember I got the courage. Dije, si no, ahora cuándo? I just heard Selena. She's like, finally somebody, a Chicana that didn't speak Spanish that well. And again, back then we were all struggling with our Spanish. Probably, I've improved a little bit más. Pero I was like, finally somebody we can identify with.
Yeah.
With the red lipstick, el cabello, todo. And it was just like, yes, let's do this. And a friend of mine in high school said, okay, there's a talent show coming. I think you should audition. I was like, neta? And it just takes one person to believe in you.
Yeah.
Because, you have that as espinita, esa corazonada, the little things that tells you, you should go and do something out of your comfort zone. Pero es alguien siempre que believes in you more than, probably at the beginning especially, more than you. And so, again, it was that friend. I was like, okay, let's do it. And it was a talent show. That's during lunch, right? Wasn't it during lunch?
Yes, like out in the, open.
In the quad. Did you go hide that, no es mi prima?
Yeah,
Esta güey ya iba otra vez con su discurso.
Yeah.
Con su show. No, and I'm going to confess to you right now, there was another occasion. They had mariachi, live mariachi. And I remember que la same friend, she's like, oh, ella canta, que se cante amor, no amor prohibido, amor ¿cómo se llama? Eterno.
Yeah.
And then so I started singing, and they're like, fuck, se me olvidó la letra. Back then we don't have, la technology where I can pull up my phone. Y yo así empecé a llorar just to play it off, and they're like, oh, y todo el mundo, ¿qué pasó? Y yo, es que se murió mi abuelito.
Play it off.
I know. Now, finally, this feels good to confess, finally, after so many years.
Yeah.
But that's what happened. Like, how can I play this off? Cool. Okay. Porque, first of all, it was in a spotlight. Y dije, no manches. But yeah, that was fun. And then...
So just to lay the foundation, this is a very kind of an affluent high school in California. Primarily white still. And all of a sudden, they have a talent show in the quad and hundreds of people, and there's Ruby just belting away some Selena. I don't even know if it was that song, but I remember because even back then, Spanish music was not super well accepted in those type of settings.
I do share this story with my students every year. I do remember the day that Selena passed away porque that was the day that the talent show for the parents at night was being held on the bus, camino a casa. I remember hearing, oh, Selena. I was like, ¿por qué viene, playing Selena songs like all the ride home? Llego a la casa, same thing, primer impacto, has Selena. And I was like, okay, Leo, ma, ¿qué pasó? Y dice, pues, somebody shot Selena. Uy, mi corazón se destrozó en mil pedazos. I was heartbroken. And she's like, are you still going to go do it? And I said, yeah, porque this is in honor of her. It's like, if anything, ella nos mostró, to step up. Entonces, me acuerdo que llegué, again, this is before social media, llegué and I told the cast, ¿cómo se llama? El director del lugar allí. Y le dije, just for some folks that haven't gone home, they maybe don't know yet, pero falleció Selena. And she's like, okay, we had you coming out in third place. Ahora vas a ser la primera en salir. Y yo, what the fuck?
Oh.
Y yo, okay, trágame tierra. But I was like, okay, brave. Let's be brave. And I step out there y me acuerdo que, y para eso te digo que agradezco a tu mamá, because my mom was still unsure. I get it. Like, I get it now. We used to clash a lot con mi mamá porque we were different personalities. Ella me quería más en casa, más reservada, and I was always about, like, en público y la calle, so voluble.
Yeah.
Y me acuerdo que your mom was the one que convenció a mi mamá, vamos. So we went, and I was the first one up, and le dije, ¿saben qué? This has just happened. And it was just, I remember very vividly, from the audience. And that just stuck with me, because everybody was like, no puede pasar, no puede estar sucediendo. And then I sang her song. No, I did not win first prize, but but dang, pero I feel like a winner that day porque I got over my fear, and I felt like everyone was singing and standing up. And again, first people I could see in the audience because the lights were on me. So the first people, kids that I can see in the audience, they were teary-eyed, and it was emotional. It was really emotional. So I still remember that story.
That's so brave. It took me so long to kind of come out of my shell and to be able to do that. You were a freshman. That's wild.
Yeah, freshman.
All right. Moving on to our next topic then, education. We're both highly educated Latinos in many, many ways. One of the things I've noticed recently is that education is in a pendulum. When we were growing up, the college was like, go to 4 years, go to college. That's the pathway to success. It seems to me that the pendulum's swinging the other way, and some people are questioning the value of college, saying, "Oh, college debt is too much. It's not, college education is not worth what they're charging. Go to work. That's where you gain experience." Where do you land on this? Where do you land on, is college overrated or is college necessary?
Yeah, es debatible. Hoy en día es debatible. Me choca que, I hated that the tuition is so high that we really have, like you said, nos estamos endeudando más al momento de salir. Again, no regrets going to college. I would do it all over again. Una de las mejores experiencias de mi vida. But I do say that el éxito viene en diferentes maneras. And limitarnos a pensar that college is the only way to success is lying to these kids because they know different. I believe that we were just talking about it this morning, and there's a trade and construction expo at Camp Dodge through the National Guards, and some of them are interested. Porque dicen, okay, lo que podemos hacer quizás es una carrera técnica of, 2 years and, maybe very well make, 4, 3 or 2, dos veces más o triple of what any 4-year college graduate would make. Entonces, I feel like students are starting to do their research. Like, ¿qué me va a beneficiar a corto plazo, a largo plazo? Y invertir mi tiempo. La educación nunca va a ser una pérdida. That's for sure. I always tell them, whatever you go into, nunca va a ser una pérdida. And we talked about it today. But I was very curious. I wanted their opinion. I said, why is it that there's more Latinas in a college campus that there are men. Entonces algunos decían, no, pues es que yo quiero la troca ya, you know. This is like, does it come from this idea of instant gratification that we're living in this world donde you want it to be happy, you want to be now, quieres el dinero ahorita, donde, you know, our videos, our TikToks y todo is like fast, moving fast, and like even if the video is longer than a minute, you're like, oh, moving on. Yeah. Entonces creo que, and I said, all right, just I get curious. I get curious about this topic. Le digo, ¿por qué más hombres no van? O ha sido mi observación, from what I read. Entonces, male Latinos are, you know, less likely, you know, menos que una mujer latina to go to college. Entonces, yo sé es que, pues, socialmente, hay esa presión, that pressure to have, you know, status. Status for men come with, you know, fancy, you know, troca, the car, o un carro, aunque sea del año o lo que sea, and then a house. Mm-hmm. El dinero para poder sacar la novia. And where women are more long-term visionaries, planean más a largo plazo. And again, that was a debate within the class, pero a lot of the males were like shaking their head, like, yeah, yo estoy trabajando con mi papá en la construcción. And I said, okay, but can you tell us a little more about what your mom said during conferences? Y dijo, no, sí, pues, my mom said, like, yeah, short term, pues, no, voy a tener mucho dinero, pero long term, pues, mi papá fue el que me dijo that voy a estar con reumas y con my feet hurting y no va a menos tiempo with la familia and things like that. And so it's like, okay, your parents are keeping it in perspective. Okay, sí, dinero ahorita, pero a la larga, ¿cómo vas a terminar? And so I, more than anything, didn't tell them what to decide on. I asked them questions like, ¿qué es lo que tú te visualizas para tu futuro? What is it that you want? And for me, I said, for example, I don't know exactly that I wanted to become a teacher. I think education found me, and instead of me finding education or being a teacher, was one of those things that just felt right as I was going through my journey. Pero I do remember being very, very clear que desde el principio dije, going back to the story of my childhood, me acuerdo de que, okay, veo el sacrificio de ellos, de mis papás, and I see how muddy they come home. So first, I want a job or a profession where I can dress up, where I look forward to walking in my closet and be like, okay, ¿cómo voy a vestir hoy bien diva, bien chingona? And then the second thing was, again, because I would be home alone, you know, once I come back to the U.S., and se hacía oscura, a mí me daba miedo. I mean, I would be, you know, hearing things outside, and me escondía en la cama, abajo de la cama. So I was like, by the time they came home a las 6, 7 de la noche, and, you know, en ciertas temporadas del año, I remember thinking, I definitely want a job where I can go drop off my kid and pick her up. Like, I don't know what job that's going to be. Y que gane lo suficiente para viajar. Because I cannot be limited to just being in one small little town. Mm-hmm. Tiene que ver más allá de esto. So those are the things that what people call now manifesting, but I did put it out there. Diosito, lo dejo en tus manos. I will work my best to accomplish them. Y being DMAC, you know, that I mentioned, DMAC was uno de los consejos de mi mamá, where it's like, ¿sabes qué? De panzazo, pasaste high school, better make sure you keep on going. And so DMAC is where I discovered that I wanted to continue going and que no se me enfriaran los pies, you know, to keep on going. And because I knew, regardless of what career I would pick, I wanted to make sure it was something that I can provide quality time for my kids. And like I said, look good, you know? Yeah. You know? So again, what is it that they are looking forward towards their future? Y más allá, sus hijos o familia, you know, o el perro que tenga, no sé.
And how much work you're willing to put into it? Because I like the idea of what you just said, manifesting, but working for it. Because so many young people right now, I notice they have this concept. If they talk about it enough, it's going to happen. And I'm like, oh, guys, I hate to tell you, that's not how it works.
Maybe burst your bubble, ayúdate que te ayudaré.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, no hay que dejar todo a la desidia, not to leave everything up to hope and hopeful wishing.
Yeah.
It's like dream big, but then plan accordingly.
Yeah.
Échale ganas. I mean, venimos a trabajar, echarle ganas, and todo lo que vale la pena en este mundo es sacrificio de una manera u otra. But you gotta do the work.
Yeah.
The heavy lifting, for sure. So back to your question. More than anything, it's getting curious about their future. Because I don't want to tell them the only way of success is college, porque not everybody's college material.
Right.
¿verdad? Y el éxito viene in different forms for everybody. There's so many personalities. The same thing with teaching. I cannot just have one teaching style porque no va a funcionar para todos los niños.
Yeah.
You know, everybody. You know, so we vary it up in order to get them hooked.
Who would be benefited by college then? In your view, what type of student should pursue either community college or a college?
Yeah, buena pregunta. Yo me imagino que el estudiante que tenga la determinación de ver y planificar, plan long term, and also careers perhaps that require you to do not only a bachelor's but specialized, por ejemplo, lawyers or doctors or these specialized where you can't just go out and be like, oh, I'm a doctor, I'm a surgeon. Well, no, you actually need proper training and schooling and years. Because otherwise, I think maybe other careers you can be trained. A lot of companies now are training their own employees to specialize in what they want to be.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, that could be, a good investment for employers now to have their own employees be specialized in what they wanted to be, or train them in what they would be specialized in. But otherwise, si te naces, si quieres ser ingeniero of some sort, algo especializado.
Teacher.
Exactamente, lo tengo que promocionar, por favor.
Yeah. So what parts prepared you to be successful in college? Like you graduated from a pretty tough school, well, actually two, DMAC Central and Drake. I mean, DMAC is a good school, but Drake and Central are pretty tough schools.
Yeah.
What made you successful?
What made me successful? First, the first thought that I came to mind también antes de contestar esa pregunta, or maybe it ties into it, put myself in positions donde not many would go. And Perry prepared me for that. Ahora, en reflexión, pienso que being in Perry High School and being one of the few Latinas prepared me for, higher education, where la mayoría was white students. Ahora a lo mejor está cambiando más la circunstancia, but yeah, I remember going, and then things were happening in my life too when I ended up transferring to Central, more personal things where I was like, I'm getting the hell out of here. Necesito salir, necesito, follow bigger dreams. To go to Central College. Sabía, this is funny though, as I'm drinking my paloma, I remember that I said, I'm going to go to college where it's not a party city, and our party college, ¿cómo es college party?
Party town, college party,
yeah. Que no tuviera muchas barras.
Yeah.
So it was one of my requirements. I don't want this, wherever I end up, I have many bars because I'm going to be distracted. I really wanted it because
I did the opposite.
Yeah, but you're an A student. And yo pasé de panzazo, I still remember the school counselor being like, Ruby, you're not going to graduate. And I was like, watch me. Y pasé de panzazo because I still had to take summer schools. And was it with you? I don't know. I think it was with definitely my brother, Tito, that I was a senior in freshman classes. Yeah, and he was like, I'm not doing your homework. Yo, cabrón. I'm like, I love you. Please do my homework. Okay, no, but what? See, it was one of those situations where it's like, okay, I made it this far. Let's go plus. And es como lo mismo que dicen ahora. If nobody offers you a seat at the table, bring your own chair.
Yeah.
Entonces, con ese concepto, that same concept that I'm going to go to these, campuses where I might be the only Latina, but I'm used to that. Being in Iowa for a few years now. And change the stereotype or break those, stereotypes that people have of us. And then, and grow from there. Porque dije, al final del día es probably the biggest training that I'll have in my life after college. Porque en cualquier negocio que vayas, there's going to be white people. And it's better that I start training myself now on how to bond, how to understand, how to acoplarme, and how to create bridges. Yeah. Entonces, for me, that was big. I was like, okay, let's do this. So I opened up myself, and I said, I've been doing risky stuff. And going back to even my childhood and thinking, mi mamá y mi papá hicieron the biggest step, which was coming to this country, cruzar indocumentados. Here I am in a different scenario, crossing to lugares donde nunca había estado, o que quizás que we're not being welcome. And I still remember los profesores being like, Ruby, you're going to be out in Walmart, cuidado, go with somebody else. We've had situations in this town, Pella, It might look like Iowa friendly or Iowa nice, in quotes. But the truth is we have students of color that have come back, crying or because they've been harassed or discriminated. I took that into consideration, pero at the same time I was like, nah, eso no me va a detener. It's not going to stop me because I'm here for a purpose and I'm going to make it. And I guess the biggest jump that, que hicieron mis padres fue venir a este país, coming to this country, then I can only, be the next risk, which is putting me in situations that are new. And again, but I wasn't there to be like hostile or like, waiting to be discriminated. No, I never carried that with me. I listened to consejos, advice, but I never went out to like, oh, this person hates me, that person, because that's a horrible way to live life.
Yeah.
Horrible.
I agree.
Entonces, no, I rather saw opportunities for connection with other people, and that really brought me to then want to travel because I started meeting people, like-minded people that were like, oh, no, go beyond what you know and step out of your comfort zone. You're going to find bigger joys in life.
All right. The last piece where I want to focus on is lessons learned in your career. So as you mentioned, you're a teacher, and not just a teacher of the year here in Iowa. So what's the most important lesson you've learned over your career as a teacher?
I feel like we need another podcast series just on this topic alone. Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is a heavy loaded question porque as I reflect on it, porque tengo we're so happy that we have like 3 new Latinos at Roosevelt High School where I currently teach. And I know you're like 3, like, okay. Yeah, but it's a big number for me because but usually I'm like the only one.
Big time.
Entonces, I feel like now that she asks me a lot of questions, it puts me in this position of mentorship and asking questions, having to reflect just on what I learned. Entonces, I like that. I like that where I can pass on. Speaking of mentorship, I believe that's one of the biggest things that got me through. I was very blessed to have a great mentor my first few years, which made a difference. Every time I could go to her, and se notaba que lo hacía de corazón. Mm-hmm. Like she wasn't out to gain anything. It was like really genuine in helping me and didn't make me feel dumb or anything. It was just like really very helpful, and she was had been teaching for so many years that I just soaked in every advice that she had. So definitely having somebody to vent with within the profession. And I was just talking about it yesterday because DMPS, Denver Public Schools, just started a Latinx affinity group, which is, for me, a safe space. Yeah. And they've created other groups as well. And finally, because, back when I started, they had teacher quality projects. Is how we came aboard. And I have to also make another pause and say, que if I never told you before, thank you so much for believing in me, because I still remember you being like, I think you'll be perfect for this. I didn't like school. How am I going to be a teacher? Yeah. And I do believe now that the best teachers are those that failed, like you said, failures. I had many failures in throughout life, because then we get it. You know, what didn't work, then let's, wake up and make it better. Yeah. Not perfect. We're still working. We're a work in progress always. But yeah, I believe that mentorship, having the right people in the right spaces, learning to say no. Yeah. I remember early on, not because I was a people pleaser, but because you're new to it, como que esta idea también that I think it came from my parents, like, you're new at a job, say yes to everything, like, para que no te vayan a correr, so you don't get fired. But then, no, I was like, no, they cannot, and I shared this at the group yesterday, to be brave and know your worth. Know your worth, because if they wanted to have me as an interpreter, I remember telling a principal, because everyone, todos los demás, everyone else had asked, can you come interpret? Can you interpret? Because they had lost the interpreter. Yeah. And I said, no. And finally, when the principal came, I dije, no, I'm not going to interpret. And here's the thing. Let me just ask you this. What's my role? She's like, well, a teacher. And I said, who am I here to, serve within the space of period 5? Students. Okay, if I step away, what is that doing to my students? What is that telling my students? I said, so I understand there's a need. And because there's a need, then you need to go find funding for that.
Yeah.
Because if I keep putting myself out there to help, being pulled out of my classroom to help other students because somebody came in randomly, in the office wanting interpreting services, then I'm your Band-Aid. And our gente, our people, our students deserve, to be invested in. If you really believe in their education, you need to go find an interpreter, and hire them. So don't rely on me because it's offensive, in serio. Very apologetic after that. I said, okay.
Get it.
And again, I was just, but we have to build ourselves up where what's your worth. And I said, and again, if I do it, you better have a stipend next to that.
Funny, and I'm still struggling with that. I say yes to way too many things.
But here's the thing. I mean, just think about it. How many in Teacher Quality Project, TQP Project cohorts, how many of them are still in education?
Not enough.
No. And so a little background with this. Many teachers were hired or not. Well, we were in becados, scholarships and or grants. And I believe that the setup, the structure of it was really good. It was the afterwards. There wasn't enough support for the aftermath. Like, okay, ahora estamos en las escuelas. Now what? Yeah. Just talking with different colleagues that are no longer in education, we got burned out. They did. And I said we because sometimes I get to that point until I have to check myself. And know that no se deben de aprovechar de tu pasión. Mm-hmm. And many times we are doing the job of two people. Entonces, saber poner boundaries for yourself and protect that.
Yeah.
And leave it at the door. Porque te van a llover a veces situaciones de los estudiantes, leave it at the door because you still have to go home to your children. In my case, no quería que afectar una cosa con otra. So learning balance. Yeah. People always talk about self-care, and I'm not talking about just getting my beautiful lashes done or mis uñas or whatever. It's really about the 5 minutes each day that you take and reflect and be grateful for what you have. Those are the small successes for me, en donde puedo agradecer cada día. And again, tying it back to childhood, que mi mamá put that seed in there about faith and being grateful. And so even on days where we're on code red, like a couple of weeks ago, lockdown, where you think like, okay, this is how I die. You hold on to faith. You hold on to, end of the day, what am I grateful for? And those are the things that keep your cup full. And y sí, ya a veces me dicen, ay, tú pecas de positivo, you're so positive. And I said, I believe it's been a lot of constant work on focusing on the good, porque es muy fácil en caer en lo negativo, and especially get away from the staff lounge. Por favor, protect yourself. My thing is, and I had this question yesterday, what do you do when they're talking about, están hablando mal de un chiquillo, that's bad about a student? And I said, I answer with, I don't talk bad about people that are not present in the room. That will shut up people. And then I leave. Yeah. Porque, again, one of those boundaries that I put for myself. Y no les permito tampoco, I don't allow for them to, before starting the year, which I've seen this happen, like, oh, let me see your roster, and this kid is bad, oh, and good, and bad. No, I don't like that. I don't like that shit, because I go back to me. If that would have been done to me, okay, estoy segura que a lo mejor te pasó a ti o me pasó a mí, especially teachers, students of color, donde entramos, and they already think they know about us or assume things about us. Entonces, si no nos da la oportunidad, gives the opportunity to show who we really are. And my belief is like each kid is going to be different with me. Entonces, a lo mejor no fue el niño ejemplar, with that other teacher, but doesn't mean he's going to be like that with me, which, again, I'm so glad that I tune out those voices because they ended up actually connecting with me in a different level. And if I would have, again, listened to those pre-written scripts about the student, then I would have been, not doing them any service, sirviéndolos bien. Because, and again, at the end of the day, education es como un negocio. That los clientes son nuestros estudiantes. They are our clients, our students. So what is it that they need? We constantly, again, advice is, and it's putting yourself out there, I know, but as teachers, we need to do periodic reflections, not just on the students, because many times they're like, oh, we want to see how the student's doing. It's like, no, check your shit, how are you doing? Because you might think like it's all perfect, and ellos te van a decir la verdad, make it anonymous, why not? And then grow from there, because Es una profesión constantly changing, and como decía mi papá, no somos monedita de oro para caerle bien a todos. Not everybody's going to like us. But in the same thing around, maybe you're not going to like every kid out there. But here's the thing about being a teacher, you're also a best actor and actress, because that child should never sense that you don't like them.
Yeah.
Again, because we all have our personalities. They should always walk away with you knowing that they are valued in that space. So again, many, I've been teaching for 14 years. Y he aprendido mucho. I've learned so much. And I put myself as a student with a student hat constantly para poder tener esa perspectiva de seguir aprendiendo, to constantly be learning. Because the moment that I feel like I got it all, o que lo sé todo, es el día que necesito dejar esta profesión. You know? Or that I don't do esto con paciencia y amor, o consistencia, or tough love, then I need to step away and do something else with my life. But so far, I'm enjoying it. I do believe, and this is the question that I ask students, back to your question about career, what's going to get you up on the shittiest days? ¿Qué te va a motivar? I said, but here's the thing, le digo, I wake up, and the blessing when people say, ay, pero de maestra, they don't respect you enough, you don't make enough, which again, I have to thank you, because you said, we make enough. It's how we, and my dad even added to that, is how you invest it.
Yeah.
And how you, manage it. And so you're like, because you even put it in perspective, like our parents earn $20,000 a year, and look at what they've accomplished. We're making 3 or 4 times as much, and okay, we have to, también hacer lo mismo. Entonces, so I was like, okay, we're earning good money. Entonces, pero it wasn't even the money, because this year, beginning of this year or last year, ya se me juntaron los años. Beginning of last year, I believe, I got a job proposal, and me acuerdo que it was for $95,000 a year. Y dije, me voy de vacaciones. But then I was so glad that I applied, just to know if I would get it. Because then it made me, again, confirm that I wasn't in it for the money. Y dije, I'm doing this because every day I wake up with a purpose, and not everyone can say that. Yeah. So that's lo mismo que le digo a los students. Whatever you do in life, if you do it with a passion, you will never work a day in your life. Entonces, whether it be a 4-year career or, doctorate, or, conseguir lo que tú quieras, pero que sea con propósito. And for me, is with service in mind.
Yeah.
What can you bring back to your community? Y cómo puedes conectar? Because that's the biggest satisfaction you're going to get. So yeah.
You dropped a bunch of gems, so I'm just recapping a few of them. Mentorship, super important. Be careful who you hang out with, especially the teacher's lounge. Find your passion, and it'll fly, and you'll be happy. So, all right. So rapid fire. This is the rapid fire. So, quick answers. If you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would you choose?
Michelle Obama.
All right. What is your biggest pet peeve?
When they put the toilet paper with the little hoja the other side, you know what I mean? They have to be on the outside. If I go to your house and it's on the other side, I'll take it off and then put it on this side.
So it's been you that's been doing that.
Can't wipe my ass with the toilet paper. That's cricket.
What's your favorite trip you've ever taken?
My what?
Your favorite trip you've ever taken?
De todas aprendo algo, but I believe Costa Rica, I did zip lining. And if you ever did zip lining, I was all about clouds, and I couldn't see the next stop. It was just go, go, go. And I seriously had a moment with God. I felt liberating. Yo go, Diosito, agárrame que ahí voy.
What would be the title of the book about you if your worst enemy wrote it?
Ay, güey. She's a badass, and I know it.
All right. Wow. What's one question you wish that I would have asked you that maybe I didn't get to?
Uy, esas son buenas preguntas. Okay. What do you wish people knew more about you? And this part we didn't touch on, and it's not a regret, it's not a failure, but I was divorced, but also taught me a lot. It was a very dark time. I believe, we went through bankruptcy, tocando fondo, but I also turned it around and said, hey, I'm going to be the best divorcee ever. Again, see, this is so therapeutic. And I remember, and I still say this, you're one of the few, no, you're the only one that reacted the way I wish everybody else would have reacted. Como que le voy a partir la madre a ese cabrón.
I wanted to kick his ass. Show me that fool.
But the good girl in me was like, and here's the thing. I was like, and my brother, because I told my brother that I was cracking up. Y dije, he would. Y le digo, yeah, well, I kind of wish you would too. No, le digo, dice, no, Ruby, here's the thing. I respected you, and si tú eres la más dolida, you were the most hurt at that point, and you being the most hurt said, you got to respect him because he is going to be around until she's, 18 and beyond, obviously. You set the tone on how you wanted us to treat him. And I said, yeah, but deep down, I wanted you to.
I would have done it.
Yeah, you would have done it. It's hurtful. And you are the only one that said that, and it stuck with me. Like, yeah, that's, but yeah, and Tito said, this is the way I see it. I wanted to, but I also knew that I was going to harm you because I was going to break, family dynamic right there. Because we want to make sure that Kayla was growing up with two parents that if we didn't choose each other, well, okay, so let it be. But at least we wanted to make sure that we grew up, have her grow up in a decent house, two households. Yeah. We were, y hasta la fecha, no le hemos partido su madre.
I'm too
but no, verdad. No, but he's a good guy. He's a decent guy. And the biggest blessing I always tell people fue que se casó con una mujer maravillosa. He's married and has beautiful children. And the way he has his family, it was meant to be. He's happy. He's with who is supposed to be. Y entonces, Kayla grew up knowing how two very different people can still be civil. Yeah. Llevarnos bien, llevar la fiesta en paz. So it is possible. It is possible. Lo respeto y ha sido muy, muy buen padre para Kayla. Así que mi admiración en ese sentido.
Yeah. Life is good.
Life is good.
Well, hey, I appreciate you coming down. I think there's lots of lessons people could learn from your life, and I'm sure you're still learning from it. You've taken many roads, and it's gotten you here, and I'm excited to see where the future roads take you.
Yeah, well, right now I'm in the love road, and estoy bastante enamorada con la vida, también con César Marentes, just throw that name out there.
Yeah.
Así que sí, tengo que decir que las bendiciones son buenas. It's about that time,
All right.
Yeah, it's good. Life is
Love
good.
It. All right, chócala.
Eso.
All right.
All right.
Nos vemos.
Gracias.
Bye-bye.
This podcast is brought to you by Infinite Resources, a local staffing agency connecting diverse job candidates and central Iowa companies.
Amplified.